Our next candidates are for the board on the Special Roads District A. There is one seat available. The candidates, in order as they appear on the ballot, are Neil Nager, the incumbent, seated on the right, and Mr. Tom Steiger, seated on the left. We'll open up with each candidate being able to give an opening statement of up to 2 minutes, and we'll do it in ballot order with Mr. Nager first.
Thank you. Neil Nager here. I'm new to this. Good evening, everybody. My wife brought me here this evening. She's my coach, and so if anything goes wrong, let's lay it on her, please. Been married for 30 years. We've got 3 adult children. 2 boys are up in Columbia, and Amelia resides in St. Genevieve. I've been employed at Mississippi Lime for 30 years. Owner-operator of Nager Farms, a small farm out in Staubtown area. Been on the road commission for 8 years. Chairman for the past 4. As a farm operator, I realize there's a need to stay on top of things and a need to make a budget and try to adhere to it. It's not always possible. You gotta give and take a little bit. Things come up that we don't expect or plan on all the time, but we try to do our best. So anyway, also growing up on the farm, I got a pretty good idea of what it takes to maintain equipment. The need to try to stay on top of things, day-to-day stuff. It's a lot easier when you stay ahead of things than if you ever get behind. It's a booger to get caught back up. I feel that I'm fairly qualified for this position. Thank you. We'll finish this in a closing statement. Thank you.
They'll give us more time. Good evening. Just want to thank everybody for their interest and their time, especially to the panel here and to the Elks for providing a spot for us and distinguished guests. So I guess I can say that I've been interested in local government, but I really enjoy the fact that I can be out there and, in my travels, even if I'm on 2 wheels or 4 wheels, which all those I maintain myself, but I'll go into that a little bit later. But I guess getting back to being involved with some government, my grandmother got me started, I guess, back 40, 50 years ago, and then so she was at a state level, and then my dad was a long-time alderman, the longest-running alderman there was until his health problems took him away. Sonny Lewis, I think, then surpassed him in number of years, and good guys on that board for their help. I became an alderman myself, and then now my son Joe is also an alderman. I forgot to mention that everybody's announced that, yes, I was went to school at Valley up until my freshman year. The whole family switched, and I graduated St. Gen. I married my wife, Susan. We've been married 26 years now. At any rate, I've got my 3 kids, and they're all grown, so gets back to I have more time now. I guess the biggest thing I can describe about my interest is that when I see a road that does need maintenance and things, I really feel that, just like you're saying, if you fix a small problem, it doesn't become a big problem for later. And you won't have to do expensive tear outs and overlays. And thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. a lot of people aren't real familiar with what the special road district does. We know its name, we know there's money and so on. What are, same question we asked earlier, what are the pressing issues facing the road district? What do you have coming up to deal with?
The special road is, special roads were developed, the special road district was developed years ago. The idea was to maintain or better maintain the roads closer to the cities, to the hubs, or more populated areas. Here in St. Genevieve, we got our Special Road District A, reaches out 8 miles beyond the city. We just, it's county roads. Anything that's not state maintained, we take care of. At present, we have nothing other than the road going out to the port, out Cottonwood Road, heading out across the bottom, across the big field. That's going to be our next big issue, the way I see it. We're just trying to stay on top of local maintenance. Just try to keep things up for people. Thank you.
Mr. Steiger, what do you think are the issues facing the Special Road District? Same question.
Okay. I do believe it's maintaining, fixing most of it before it becomes a bigger issue for later. And it is true. I'm close with some of the other people who are involved with the port. I would love to see that road to be better developed because of the amount of employment that the port can bring us in the future years to come. It's an important issue that people say, well, we're not going to be driving that road as much. Well, it generates tax dollars. Anything that's going to bring in more of that tax revenue, that's where we need. It's just like we were saying, those essential roads that are close to our town, those are important ones, obviously, that should be fixed and maintained maybe at a higher level than the ones that are outlined, which are your I guess at your 7 to something 8 mile extension, because we don't go past that. So special roads, thank you.
What experience or skills qualify you to serve in this office? Experiences or skills qualify you to serve in this office?
Okay, and it is to me.
To
Both of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess for my easiest way to bring it, I've always been interested in equipment, but I know that I shouldn't own any bigger pieces than I own. But during my small subdivision that I developed, yes, I kept equipment for months on hand, and I do believe in having to use older and more used equipment. It really requires the maintenance at that level. And I found that you can't get more done if you don't. If you need a load of gravel, it has to be there, or otherwise, in my case, I would be holding up work on my project, which also means that the citizens would be behind on their projects if we don't keep those at a higher maintenance level. So I guess that development of that subdivision, which required anything from getting costs, dealing obviously with government, and then dedicating some of the ground to a street development and then having it accepted. That alone, crowns on street, there's just so many issues. Thank you.
Well, I feel that my 30-something years in an agricultural setting, along with a little bit of experience in Mississippi Lime, I did a little bit of construction work with Bowman's here in St. Genevieve. The past 8 years with the Special Road District, I mean, we have been doing a pretty good job, I believe. I don't recall too many complaints. Things seem to be working out pretty well. I think I've got the experience that is required for the job also. Thank you.
If elected, what would be your top priorities?
First of all, first priority is safety. We got to keep these roads safe for the residents as well as people traveling into St. Genevieve for historic events or whatever, relation coming here or there. The port is going to be a big thing. It's going to bring money into this community, and yes, along with that money, tax dollars, and we all need that. If schools need it, that's going to put more money in the special roads pocket. Everybody will benefit from it, but just ongoing maintenance of things that we use day to day. I think, just try to maintain and keep everybody safe and happy. Thank you.
And okay, and then I'm sorry.
Do you want to repeat it?
Oh, you could.
If elected, what would be your top priorities?
I think we kind of went over it, but obviously our port would be. I'm close with Ronnie Inman, and I feel that knowing the amount of employment that could derive from that would be an important fact. So that's one road that needs to require. Obviously, we can't fall back on our maintenance, especially during. We've had the greatest winter we could have possibly had, but which should save some money, and probably our budget would reflect it in future time. But we all know that funds are being held now that because of litigation and such that monies can't be spent freely as they might be. So a budgeting part is something I've done for years, being involved with several businesses. So I think I can help with that. So, all right, thank you.
One of the things that the road district's been dealing with is they've been meeting with the city to discuss using special road district funds, percentage of them on city streets. Tell us what you think about this issue. Should funds be allocated, a percentage of funds for city streets, and how should those be used?
Yes, they should, because they're taxpayers of the special road district, but it should be equally used for, and more importantly, prioritized where you have heavy traffic, which I think I made that comment about the port, because it would be important to have that being as structurally as sound as we can for heavy equipment, large trucks and such, and then for our arteries that do come inside the city limits, yeah, you have to have those. I don't think anybody has any dream that you should use special road money to fix somebody's subdivision. So that would never happen. I just believe that you have to have your best, I guess you almost say, appearance. Sometimes when you're driving over roads that you leave a state developed road that they've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on, and now you travel in the last few blocks, yeah, that could be definitely an improvement.
I do feel that part of these monies, having been collected from city residents, do need to go back to the city, and on with specifications as to where they need to be spent. We need to maintain the more heavily traveled throughways, and keep our city open to the public. Yet there are things that come up out in the county that can draw precedence over this. It's a person never knows what kind of weather, what kind of spring we'll have, and if roads wash out, they need to be put back in. So money's got to go where it needs to be spent. So thank you.
There's a related question that was submitted from the audience that says, as a member of the county who resides on a special roads district road, why should any of our funding be reallocated to the city?
Part of this funding is derived from the city. It's tax money that city residents pay. They're entitled to that part of that money back. And county residents use city streets just as much as city residents use the county roads. So I feel that part of this money does need to go back into the city.
Same question? Just for county residents only? Not
Why should it be reallocated to the city?
Well, I think we're equally agreed that city residents put in approximately $140,000 of a $400,000 budget, and it could be upwards of $100,000 that the state would see fit that is legally could be returned. But it just comes down real simple. If you maintain areas that would make improvements for your county, to have county residents spend money to create, whether it's going to the grocery store, a gas station, or whatever, you would really benefit and see your town progress. And especially, we just had the school people there. It sure looks nice when we can have the buses that roll into town and all the families that come to these activities. We're real fortunate to have what we do inside of our city limits. And, well, I know we pushed our city limits out, and which should have been done years ago. A great community center, and those are the kind of roads you want to have people driving on. So, thank you.
Just to follow up even further, the amount this year, the Special Roads District is giving a little more than $24,000 to the city. If you're elected, or re-elected in the case of Mr. Nager, how do you see that amount changing, if any, over the next 3 years of your term?
Well, it comes down to how important three commissioners would see that importance of roads traveled. There, obviously when you have a crown on the street that's just gone, and you're fighting water in the smallest rain, there's no stormwater drainage to it. I mean, those are things that have to be done. So we could sit up here and say we're going to maintain just everything we do, but I guess what I'm saying, I can see spending dollars to make something as presentable as it is for such a small entryway into the town. And when I was alderman, I went up against this as well back when the special road was involved back then. And it was limited, and we shared kind of one side of the road and the other one did the other side of the road. I was a bit frustrated because knowing that we put in that much money. But still in all, you've got to have it in your head. If you have a special road district, you want to get the best for your citizens. So whether they live right up to the city limits or they're as far out as 7 and 8 miles. Thank you.
I would hope to see an ongoing relationship here between the special road and the city. I think we can maintain that. We want to work on the, let's say, the more traveled throughways. We need to somewhat restrict our funds, our expending, or limit it. But I don't know why this couldn't grow in the future. Thank you.
I got a question that was submitted by the public, and we've been talking about financial matters, but there are other responsibilities for special road district board members, including knowing about, having some knowledge about gravel and asphalt road maintenance, water drainage, snow and tree removal, the purchase and maintenance of heavy equipment, easements, budget control. Board members may get called out to help during emergencies. can you tell us a little bit and be as specific as you can about your qualifications to deal with all of these issues? I didn't write the question.
Yes, we do get called out from time to time. I've cut brush, drug brush, just to open up roads. Qualifications, I don't know. I can run a truck, I can run a backhoe. It's just like, I'm sure Tom can too. You do what you have to do. It's a job, but one that doesn't pay very well. You do what you got to do. That's it. As far as qualifications, I think either one of us would be very qualified. What does it take to run a chainsaw? This. When it comes to financial matters and this and that, the sit down and the planning, and yeah, it takes a little more. You've got to put a little bit more into it, and we might all be stressing a little bit to come up with the right answers all the time there, but we do try. Thank you.
I think I forgot the question.
It was long.
Read that long list again.
I think you brought up that we're interested in if we purchase equipment, I'm obviously going to reflect to people that would help me, and even to the computer. I mean, if we can afford to buy new, you'll research it from going from those. There's a lot of agencies out there that will help with a certain type. And it's just like how bad the slurry seal that is now being used by the county, processes that are just not the old chip and seal that we once had. I really enjoy being involved and seeing how roads develop, and almost call them the health of a road, to see if it's degrading, if it's checking, and you're going to lose a road. If I'm almost sounding like maintenance here again, but important things like, yeah, I operated backhoes, but it's better off to have somebody who knows what they're doing. I worked at the lime kiln myself and drove dump trucks. I picked up loads of material from tar rock. I've used some of Ronnie's equipment. So, anyway, that's what I could share on that.
Okay. The district opted not to draw down any of the money that was being withheld in tax protests this year, which amounted to about $140,000. What kind of effect do you think this has had on the district's finances, and do you think it was the right decision to make?
Well, I'm not being privy to all the budgets that followed and now we have, but it does seem to make sense now. Worst thing you can do is put us in the red. So I do see that. Now, truly, I don't think that $24,000 of our involvement would be a big enough step. But still, we haven't decided yet of what is the best way to spend its budgets and try to add to funds later to make improvements on entryways into the town. But you only want to use that city money if it's going to be used for major roads. But I really think that you have to guard what you have, so that if a lawsuit and we get a harsh result, we wouldn't want to put ourselves in jeopardy.
Toby, would you repeat the question?
Sure.
Please?
The district opted not to draw down any of the tax protest money, which amounted to about $140,000. And just what kind of effect do you think that's had on the district finances, and do you believe it's been the right decision?
Yes, we opted not to draw this down. It tightened things up in our budget a little bit. We're going to have to watch be a little bit more particular as to where we, what roads we address this year. I do think it was the right decision. I was for it. I don't think we need to be spending money that we may have a little difficulty getting our hands on down the road. I think we should be prudent in our spending, a little careful, yet spend money where it's needed. So I think it was the right thing to do. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, you each have a minute for a closing statement.
I feel that I've done a fair job serving the county. Really pretty good job, I guess. I don't. The county residents seem to be very pleased with the condition of the roads. I think our snow removal and highway, county road, asphalt maintenance is top notch. We've got a crew of 2 guys and a part-time fella, and they do an outstanding job. I'm happy to be a part of it. I like serving this county, and I'd like to continue. Thank you.
Well, having been part of this county for 60 some odd years with only a short stint away, I love my kids growing up here. As far as just trying to describe what I think would be more important for the future is not to hurt our budget. That so that we stay sound and fiscal through the course. I do believe there's room, and we need to stretch it maybe if we know that industry could be in the near horizon. So that's probably the only time I would say maybe we might budge from our, from off of our, what we're trying to hold back and stay with. So that's the only time I could see it, if it would influence people making decisions to locate here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you both very much for your time, and this is something you'll have to do again for a while, so I'm sure you're pretty happy about that. Next, we'll go to the St. Genevieve Board of Aldermen. So if we could have the candidates for St. Genevieve Board of Aldermen come to the front. I'd like to introduce the candidates for the 2 aldermanic races in the city of St. Genevieve. On the left, we have the candidates for Ward 1 Alderman, the incumbent Phil Rogers and Shauna Zerwig. And then the 2 gentlemen on the right are the candidates for Ward 3 Alderman, the incumbent Carl Uckenfuss and Michael Browning. We'll begin by allowing each candidate to have a 2-minute opening statement, and we'll begin with Mr. Rogers. The microphone is there. You guys will just have to pass it back and forth.
All right. I'd like to thank everyone for showing up this evening. Thank you all for inviting us here to express our point of views, and I hope this works for us. I hope it works for everybody. Some of the things I'd like to talk about right now in my 2 minutes is some of the things that we've accomplished. The Safeway to schools, that's all but done. Taylor Engineering now is holding the final contracts, or the final bids on that. They're soon to be released. And we've made great strides with the special road districts and the county commissioners in the past 2 years that I've been on the board. We've seemed to come together in 3 separate entities and start working as one. It's been a real plus for the city. It's been a real plus for the county. Also, the special road districts, which was touched on earlier, they're going to give us 23.5% of their budget, and that's going to help us do some much needed repairs. That was in the late 20s and early 30s. Counties adopted those so the farmers could get their products to the market, because there was a lot of roads not maintained by the state and the county. So they allowed the counties or the cities to form these entities so that the farmers could get their produce to markets. The last time the city and the special road districts worked together was in 1960. You do the math. It's been a long time. So I take my hats off to the guys that work with us this year. It took us a while to get all of our eggs in one basket, but appreciate the help. And some of the other things, the hiking and biking trail, that's all but done. We're working with Burlington Northern right now. They're with their attorneys. That's about done. We made a lot of progress with landmarks, some of it good, some of it not so good, but that's still a project in the work. Swimming pool at the north end of town up by the park. We're in phase 2 of that. The swimming pool's been cleaned out, all the debris out of there. We're going to start taking bids on its demolition, and hopefully before the summer's over, that'll be a distant memory. The housing and nuisance enforcement's all right. Sorry, I had a lot more, but okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shauna Zerwig. This is my first time running for any of the government offices. I'm a 4th generation St. Genevievean, and I am a 2nd generation St. Genevievean in Ward 1. My mother lived there for over 36 years, and I believe that I think there needs to be change. And when everybody says that they're opening and listening to the citizens, I don't believe that is so. I would like to open up more opportunities for citizens to be able to voice their opinions. I believe an alderman is not to use their own opinion as what they believe should be done. I believe an alderman should use the opinion of the citizens of their ward. It should be a consensus of the ward, not their own interest. I've been married for almost 12 years. I've got 3 children. I've got a 20-year-old, I got an 11-year-old, and I got a 9-year-old. And I love my Ward 1, and I would do the best job that I could for Ward 1. So I hope everyone goes out to the polls, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm Carl Oakenfoos, candidate for re-election in Ward 3, St. Genevieve. And everything Phil Rogers claims to have accomplished, I feel like I have accomplished that too. I'm going to start off by introducing myself a little bit. I'm a full-time alderman. I'm retired, 37 years with the Army Engineers in the United States Navy. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm a lifelong resident of St. Genevieve. I went to Valley Grade School. I'm a graduate of St. Genevieve High School. I have an honorable discharge from the U.S. Navy, and I served in Vietnam for a year. I'm married. My wife and I, Mary, have been married for 35 years. I have a daughter, Julie, and a son, CJ, all raised in St. Genevieve. I've always worked out of town my whole life, my working career, and I've always traveled back to this town because I love St. Genevieve. And I tell you what, I really love being alderman, and I've got some more things to tell you. When's the bell going to go off?
You don't need to go until the bell rings.
Okay.
My name is Michael Browning. I've been married to my wife Diana for 30 years. I have 3 children, 5 grandchildren. We've lived in St. John County and city for 26 years. I graduated from high school in Southern Illinois, went to night courses in college for water and sewage treatment. I've been to River School for Merchant Marine license and Davis Marine for radar certification. I have worked for Lure Brothers Marine Division for 32 years. I hold a United States Coast Guard Merchant Marine Officer license for Master of Towing Vessels on the Western Rivers for 27 years. I am a designated examiner for assessment on completion of candidates for towing vessels. I hold a high security card issued underneath the authority of the United States government, and I'm running for alderman for Ward 3.
Reverse order for the first questions.
All right, thank you. Iris?
Okay. What do you feel is the best way to address differences of opinion among the aldermen or between the board and the staff?
Well, I think the different opinion would be up to a vote. Try to work it out amongst themselves and come to agreement.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
What do you feel is the best way to address differences of opinion among the aldermen or between the board and the staff when you totally do not agree on anything? What do you think is the best way to handle that?
Well, I think probably the best way to handle it is all involved, the other board members and staff members, whoever you need to get involved, certainly discuss it and work it out, work the problems out.
I think that each alderman is responsible to their own ward, and I think that they should voice the opinion of their citizens in their ward. And I think when there is a disagreement, it should be what is for the better greater of the city, not for an individual use or individual person. And anybody who's in a position as to have disagreements or to be in a meeting with a disagreement, they should always view the opinions of everybody around them and try to work it out for the greater good of the city. Thank you.
That's a question that's plagued mankind and government since day one. A lot of times, the reason both sides don't hear is because one side doesn't listen. There's always two sides to every argument. And the best way to do that is to calmly try and get both sides to say what they want to say, and sometimes step back and listen and really understand what the other person is saying. Because no one that I know of that's ever been in government's had every answer right all the time. It doesn't happen. When you're wrong, admit it and move on. That's the only way you get anything done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marion?
In your ward, what are your top priorities that you're seeking at this term?
As far as in Ward 1, the one that we've got going on right now that is of the most concern is the swimming pool, because they've had problems with drugs, they've had a lot of loitering, a lot of vandalism. So we're working real hard to get that done right now, and hopefully within the next month or two that will be accomplished. And some of the other things are the nuisance laws. We're taking a stand on that now, and most of the problems are in Ward 1. They really are. I have a lot of people come to me and complain about kids playing in these houses. There's unsafe floors. There's all kinds of problems where someone could get rats, all kinds of bugs. And that's what we've got 9 properties right now that we're really focusing real hard on to try and clean up. And that's 2 of our real big ones right now. Thank you.
I believe that the importance in Ward 1 is first of all, the uniting of Ward 1. There's so many new individuals in Ward 1 with rental properties, with new home purchases. I think that giving them a voice, that this is their community and that they have a right to say. And I agree with Phil on the nuisance laws, and some of these homes need to be cleaned up. But I also am standing against the pay for the alderman. I believe that an alderman should be wanting to be an alderman without a pay. The Landmarks Committee, none of them get paid for their services, and yet the aldermen get paid monthly for service. And I believe that money can be reused back into the city to help with the budget. So those are my concerns. And of course, following the ordinances, and but mostly just uniting the citizens. So.
And Ward 2?
Ward 3. I disagree with the with the pay issue. I tell you what, I think they ought to raise the aldermanic pay, and the reason I say that is they're hopefully attract better people than maybe myself or. But my priorities in Ward 3 right now, material priority would be. Portis Street is a heavily traveled street. It needs a lot of work. There's bad storm drainage on it. It needs to be rebased and surfaced. That's probably my top priority now in Ward 3. Ward 3 is in fairly decent shape. except we do need some streets redone, and other wards seem like they're getting all the attention, and I'm going to be fighting for Ward 3 streets.
Yes, I think that's more important too, is the streets. He's talking about the Laporte Street. I live on that street. I know how the drainage and stuff is, and it's not good right now, and I think it needs to be improved, and try to work on it a little bit harder than what we do.
So the city recently reorganized and formalized the Tourism Advisory Council. How are we doing on tourism and in terms of as a strategy for economic development? What should we be doing differently? Anything? And I tell you what, let's mix it up a little bit. Let's start with Ms. Zerwig and start a circle here. I'm not picking on you, I'm just trying to rotate it.
I think because I've lived here almost my whole life, I think as far as tourism, I think that the Special Roads District, I mean, when these people come into town and then they come off of a state road and then like, you know, going down towards the tracks, I do believe some of those roads could be better maintained to be more pleasant for our visitors coming in. But I think as far as tourism, I think St. John has gotten sometimes a bad reputation as being a snotty town or withdrawn. And I don't believe that at all. And I'm hopefully thinking that with the Jour de Fête reopening to most of their vendors, it'll help bring back some of that popularity to St. Genevieve. And I mean, I love St. Genevieve, the historicalness of St. Genevieve. And I think it'll come back. I think once the economy pops back a little bit more, hopefully it'll come back. Carl.
We need arrows on the floor up there.
All right, tourism and...
How are we doing on tourism, and what should we be doing differently, if anything?
All right, you said something about economic...
Well, tourism is an economic development strategy. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think for the first time ever, we just recently hired a full-time tourism director. I think that's a positive move in the right direction. The board made a decision to do that. We had a part-time, and I think the reports I'm getting, tourism is up somewhat. Tourism is something that, with Built Best closing and we're losing other jobs, tourism is really the only thing that, unless we can start some new economic development, that's the only thing we can hang our hats on here, folks, in St. Genevieve. We've got the oldest permanent, I better not say that, settlement west of the Mississippi River, and there's nobody that hates tourists more than I did when I was a young man. I hated to get in my car and follow them around, and they're going 3 miles an hour and pointing in every direction. That really aggravated me. But you know what? If you look at it hard, that's what we got, folks, and we need to take care of it.
Yes, I think tourism is very important. I think the appearance of our town needs some work for tourists to come in. I believe that we could work a little bit harder at it and make it a little more presentable for the tourists. Thank you.
Since the Tourism Advisory Council has been formed and our new tourism director has taken a stand on where the money should be spent, do I agree with it? Not 100%. Do we need to spend $30,000 for pamphlets and magazines and advertisements in Chicago or Raleigh, North Carolina? Are we going to get a group of 100, 200 to come down here and stay? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But the jury's still out on that because we haven't seen those people. Could we advertise more into Springfield and Cape Girardeau and the closed Illinois counties, or maybe up around Hannibal where they have the same common denominator we do as far as historic value? Yeah, maybe that money would be better spent then. But until this unfolds, until we see what the final numbers are, they were up 12% last month. That's pretty good for this time of year, considering how the economy is and what the rest of the town is facing, or what the rest of the towns around us are facing. That's pretty good. So until we see the final numbers, I don't think we ought to really judge too quick.
Let's start with Carl and follow kind of that same path of
Iris has a question.
speakers. Oh, okay.
The city's business industrial park was created in the late 1990s. So far, there's been very limited development at the site. Do you think the city should continue the efforts to promote business industrial development there? Or should they find some other direction for the project, such as a residential development?
All right, I think we've already moved in that direction. We've got the nursing home moving in up in that area. But if we can get, I hate to say this word, but a Toyota factory to move in, and I'd be willing to give them ground out there. We need jobs here in St. Genevieve. And you know, you got to take it as it comes. We'd like to save a place for General Motors to come in and build their EVs, and but you know, will that happen? We've got a place right now. This park's been sitting that way for long before I was on the Board of Aldermen. But I think we tried to keep Citizens Electric in their headquarters in St. Genevieve to entice them there, and it looks like that may have fallen through. You know, we're going to have to look at it as it comes to us.
Yes, I think the development out there is good. I think it's, I hope things starts to move out there. Now, if they will, I really don't know, but if we keep working on it and hoping maybe we'll get something to move in out there. It really looks nice, so.
The actual fact of it is, yes, we're already moving in that direction. We're on our next work session agenda. We're going to take almost all of the remaining TIF money that we had, and we're going to get it grade level, which means whatever it takes to get it to where it's graded properly and put the back loop in that connects to the subdivision. That's there. That's for us to do. That's on our to-do list. So once that project is grade level and it's ready to go, the value of the land goes up. Now couple that with the port going in. Couple that with what the Special Roads is helping us do. You put all that together, and you have to look at all these little pieces, because before long that puzzle is going to come together, and it's going to come together in a hurry, and we are going to do good on it. I promise you that.
Are you talking like housing development or business?
Well, see, one reason right now you can't, it's not industrially good, because people come out and they look at it and it's not grade level. There's no sewer, there's no electric, there's a whole lot of things that aren't there. So if we use the TIF money that we have now, and we have to use it anyway, why not do it on that property and make it worth the venue? And you put it in with the Port Authority, and then becomes an access to 55 and access to the river. That little piece of property is going to make some company very happy. And that could get us 200-300 jobs in the city, which would be awesome. But you know, I keep saying this, and I hope I'm not wearing this out. People have to be patient, because it takes a lot of money and a lot of time to get this done. But we are on it. It's not just sitting there idle by. We are working on it.
Okay, not to put you on the spot, but are they really, is somebody out there seeking businesses to come into our factories and actively doing that? Or
I can't. I could say yes to the first question, but I can't go any farther than that,
Okay.
because I don't think
That's
it would.
okay.
I don't think it would jinx it.
That's okay.
But you know, sometimes when something gets set out of turn, it's taken
Right,
wrong.
exactly. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I do think that there has been a laxed attitude toward the growth of that industrial park out there. I think there has been slow development of it, and I believe that to the right person it would be a great piece of property. But as far as that industrial park, I mean, it's been sitting there. They've had quite a few, well, not quite a few, they've had a couple people come in and look at it, and nothing. And I think that even a grade is not going to sell somebody a piece of property. I think the industrial side of it is not really going to be there. I think that the nursing home should hold their responsibility and build there. And I think that it should be more of not so much a residential area, but more of like a nursing home, maybe some some assisted living homes or even individual older generation apartment, because I think that that is one thing that our city does kind of lack on, the ability for future growth for our elderly.
Sure. Let's start with Mr. Browning and work back down. What steps would you like to see the Board of Aldermen take in the future when it comes to historic preservation and the Landmarks Commission?
Repeat it again.
Would you like to see the Board of Aldermen take in the future when it comes to historic preservation and the Landmarks Commission?
I would say more the appearance and the streets and stuff like that for as that goes.
Same question. Well, first of all, I'd like to go on record saying that I despise landmarks. But it's something that we have to have. If we do not have landmarks committee in place, we would lose a lot of federal dollars. And we need federal dollars. They come into town, we spend them here. They fan out. I want all the federal dollars I can get in St. Genevieve. I want to take the general account and spend it on 50-50 match federal dollars. But we have to have landmarks. Landmarks doesn't affect me as much as it does the other wards, although I pay close attention. I've been to many landmarks meetings. I have two houses in my ward that are subject to landmarks. And one of them, I just turned it in the other day to have it looked over. It looks like it's becoming derelict. And the other one is a beautiful, beautiful home, and it's the closest to. If you know where Ward 3 is at, it's just above the railroad tracks, past DuPont property. And the bell went off.
I think the Landmarks Committee, there's changes going on there. I think it's going to be improved with the new additions into the Landmarks Committee, because I think that those new additions believe that as long as you don't structurally change a historical home, that you should be able to use modern capabilities of fixing up your homes. And I do agree with that. I think that a lot of homes are stuck into a downtown historic district, but with the new additions into the historic district preservation, I think that these changes will come about where citizens will be able to use more modern materials for their homes.
Sorry, Carl, but I love landmarks. And I'm going to tell you why. $23 million in less than 20 years. That's a pretty good sizable chunk of change. We wouldn't have levies. We wouldn't have a lot of these tax financing. We wouldn't even have the Corps of Engineers coming down here to entertain us doing a North and South Gabourey engineering project. They wouldn't even look at us. If anything ever happens to these historic homes down here, it's going to be one big parking lot. Now, are they great? Are they right? Are they consistent? No, no, and no. Are they getting better? I hope so. Are we going to be able to work with the Board of Aldermen with them? Yes. A lot of the things that happens that people who don't like landmarks isn't the landmarks problem. It's planning and zoning, or it's a city ordinance problem. It's not all the landmarks. Until people understand that there's a big difference between those entities and the government, you're not going to get this problem fixed. You're not even getting it understood. So the next time somebody bashes landmarks, let's find out if that's the ones that should be bashed. Thank you.
Let me ask you about a current issue facing the city. The Planning and Zoning Commission recently received a request for a special use permit for a city resident to sell firearms from his residence. This matter has been referred to the Board of Aldermen. What's your opinion on this matter?
Okay. First off, I wasn't privy to any of that conversation. He never came before the board. He was brought, there was a couple of board members that he talked to. I was not one of them. And I know this guy because he's a neighbor of mine.
I don't think I said that. What I said is that the Planning and Zoning Commission received the request for the permit. The matter's been referred to the Board of Aldermen. I don't believe the board has acted on it yet.
No, absolutely. I don't know whether the citizens are aware of this, but there's been people doing this in this town for years. We have gunsmiths that repair, sell firearms, ammunition, and it's been going on since I've been here 32 years. This is nothing new. What seems to be happening here is now if somebody doesn't like what's going on with one person, it becomes an issue for everyone. My personal opinion on it, if he abides by the law, I got no problem with it. And most people that deal in firearms on a level that this guy does, they're good at it. They follow it by the law. They have the police run 28s. They do the background checks. They do the safety checks. They advise them on how to use a new firearm. They do more in their homes like this than you'll get to if you go to, I shouldn't probably say this, but if you go to a Dunn's, a Walmart, or a Bass Pro, they will not give you the instruction that these guys do. Thank you.
Mr. Wade?
Oh, you're not
Same
done?
question.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
No,
Oh.
please.
Sorry. As I believe in the right to carry, and I was just in this gentleman's business a couple weeks ago. My husband is an advocate gun collector. I believe he is an outstanding citizen. There's a difference between a drug dealer and a gun dealer. And I believe he does abide the law. And I think that that's how somebody prospers, then that's what, as long as he's abiding the law, he has every right on his own property, as long as he holds a business license with the city, to do as he pleases. But definitely, I think that he should be able to maintain his business.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Oakenfoos?
Well, I sit on Planning and Zoning, and I have a vote on Planning and Zoning Committee. And I looked at this business. I think it would be a great business, but I'm not against firearms, but I voted no not to allow that business. But Planning and Zoning overrode my decision. I believe in property rights. I had a neighbor, an adjoining property owner, in an R1 residential, top residential section, say that they did not want a business there, and that was the request, to start a business there, a gun business there. And I respect property owners' rights, and I'll vote that way again for that reason.
Okay, Mr. Browning?
Yes, I think just as long as he obeys by the law, I think it's a great business. I've got a few collector items myself, and I think it'd be good.
The city is expected to be forming an ad hoc committee to talk about progress in annexation. What proposals would you like to see this committee bring to the Board of Aldermen? And we can come back this way with it.
I believe we start with Ms. Zerwig this time.
Okay.
Isn't that right?
Okay, you're going to have to repeat the question.
Sure. The
Sorry.
city is expected to form an ad hoc committee for progress in annexation. What proposals would you like to see this committee bring back to the Board of Aldermen?
Well, I would like to see more unification through the aldermen in the city. I mean, again, I think that a lot of times people have personal agendas when they believe that they're appointed a position in the aldermen. But I think that the progress, I mean, we should always be moving forward. We should be adding more technologies to our cities. Even though we're a historic city, doesn't mean that we're historic-minded.
What about the annexation aspect?
I'll be honest with you, I'm not real sure about it. I just think that sitting down and looking over the whole thing would be more of a better, I'd be able to answer the question better, and I'm sorry about that.
Actually, there's already aldermen been appointed to that board, and as to my knowledge right now, they haven't had a meeting. We already know of at least 6 people who would be amiable to annex in at this moment. What their plans are beyond that, I don't know. They haven't met. We haven't gotten a report from them, and that's been 6 months ago? At least 6 months ago. So they've been formed. But you know, it's like a lot of these things that just because you form a committee, that means that's square one. You got to move. You got to go farther. And if you're not going to get on a committee, I was the liaison to the Landmarks Commission, and I really stirred up some people on that deal. Let me tell you, there's a lot of people not happy about it. But they got off of the square, and things are going forward now. We're improving in those areas. And the same thing with if you want to annex somebody in, send them the letters. Let them know that you want to annex them in. Let them know what your intentions are. Let them respond. Thank you.
Okay. We'll pass that down, Mr. Browning.
Browning?
We'll just keep going.
Yeah, I think it would be all right to annex them in. I think you should let them know and let them know what's going on and get their opinions and stuff on it, and then take it back in front of the board, and I think that's the way it should be.
Well, St. Genevieve has formed an annexation ad hoc, and as far as I know, they have not. They are newly formed. They have not met yet, but I do know of some areas that they anticipate that will be friendly annexation, and that's what you want to do if you do annex anything into the city. You want the people that live there to agree to it. We have Mississippi Lime to the north. They absolutely do not want to come into the city. I'm told by law experts that it'll be 3 years of no service in the city, paying legal fees to try to annex Mississippi Lime. To the south, we have the Big Field, or the Bluffs. We've annexed Valley Springs. Past Valley Springs, there's some new subdivision, a lot of beautiful homes back there, but they all have their own septic. They won't come into the city or even consider it without a fight until those septic systems go out. And EPA says when the septic goes out, it's going to cost them a mint to replace them, and they'll welcome city sewer lines out there at that time. That's down the road. I love that.
Reverse order, Mr. Okenfoos, back around this way.
Me first?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Question.
Marianne had a question.
Yeah, I did have a question. You were talking about annexing different parts of the city. Now, I'm wondering how and who comes into play with doing this district. You put a historic district out, and you put that dude out, and it covers more people that's not really historical homes.
But was that a question for the city or for the candidates?
Well, I don't know. So I'm wondering if the landmark or the aldermen have anything to do with that. Do they bring that to you?
No, as far as I know,
Is that the planning and zoning?
What you're talking about is landmarks,
Is that the landmarks?
and
that
including
has in the district?
classifications of
Yeah.
historic homes. There's 3 different classifications. Offhand, I can't tell you what they are, but there's
Well, this is what I'm wondering, like on
the
Market
alderman.
Street.
That was never set. That was set
Yeah.
by SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Society.
Well, they better get together with some people.
And
Really?
that's what we're trying to do now, is iron it out.
I'm sorry, but I
You know,
just,
we didn't invite Marianne Otto because we said we didn't have the 5-minute delay button.
you still invited Mary Ann.
Now we need one for the other Marianne.
But I do really,
Yeah.
really have an issue
But-
with that because, I mean, to me, I mean, you've got your aldermans in all your wards, but you've got these people throwing these districts out and extending them clear to no man's land, and there's maybe one house in it.
Ding, ding.
Now, as far as I know, there are no districts outside the city limits.
No, but I mean, you've got.
Now, I'm sure
you've
there
got
may
all
be
the
a
way
home out there
You all-
that
you got all
state
the way to
or
61.
federal
Marianne, we need to move on.
would deem historically significant.
But I was just wondering who is in control of that, if that ever comes to the board, or if that's strictly landmark, or what is that?
I imagine in order to keep our federal tax coming, we'd have to run it through landmarks and the board.
Please,
Oh,
that's
okay.
not a question for candidates, so let's move on.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience, Carl.
I love talking city.
Okay.
I would suggest that our current aldermen sit down with Mary Ann perhaps afterwards and answer these questions.
Love to.
These are
Love to.
questions for the city now and not for the candidates at large. Can we go on to closing statements before we deteriorate any further? Please, Carl, please begin.
I've been involved in leadership in my entire professional career and in the private sector also. Since my appointment as alderman by Mayor Dick Griminer, I have come to enjoy the workings of the St. Genevieve City government. I'm currently serving on countless boards, have served on Finance Committee, Public Works Committee, Planning and Zoning, Parks and Recreation. I am Public Access Television Assistant Liaison, and I've been liaison with the Community Center. I find it very interesting, and as I said, I'm full-time. I hope to represent the people of Ward 3 as alderman again. Please come out, vote April 3rd. Even if you don't vote for me, come out and vote. You exercise your right to vote. And I would like to thank the committee, the Herald, and all else. Thank you very much.
This is the first time I've run for alderman of St. Gen. I love the town. It's a very beautiful town, and it's a nice place to live. And I would appreciate your vote, and thank you.
Chivalry's not dead. I offered. First thing I'd like to thank is the committee and the Herald for showing and inviting us up tonight. And like Alderman Okenfuss said, please, we got men and women dying in foreign countries for what we got a 10-minute job to do to go vote. Don't waste it. Don't make their sacrifices in vain. I've been on the board now for 2 years. I've been a liaison with the Landmarks Commission. I've worked with other people in other commissions to help them do whatever they needed done. We've got a litany of things that I think I've got accomplished, or that the alderman's got accomplished. Some of them I spearheaded with special roads. There's a lot more to do. And your first year in there, you feel so useless because you don't get to see a budget. The budget's already done. It's gone. You don't get to spend nothing. You really can't do nothing but sit there and vote one way or the other on what might come up. And then when you see your first budget and you're looking at $10 million and somebody's wondering, why did that attorney get a $30 bill for a phone call? I'm sorry, but that's pretty small in a $10 million budget. But appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Again, I would like to thank everybody for this opportunity to be here to stress my views about my ward. I have never been a ward alderman before, but I believe I can do a great job because I listen. I've lived in that ward. My family's lived in that ward for my whole life. I do think that you have the capability of stretching yourself too thin. I do believe that it all boils back down to the citizens of your ward. You are a voice for the citizens of the ward. I think that when you put your ward first, then the greater good will come for your ward. Again, please go out and vote. Hopefully you'll vote for change. Thank you.
Thank you all for participating. Thanks everyone for coming out tonight to be a part of the ceremony. And we'll have biographies on these candidates in the next edition of the St. Genevieve Herald, along with the alderman candidates for the city of St. Mary.
I want to make sure that everyone catches the What's New program. I think you can see it gets kind of lively. And when is that on, Iris?
It is on the second and the fourth Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Channel 98.
And that's going to be available on the website, Don, correct? On the new website for St. Genevieve Community
Eventually.
Access Television, stgentv.com. I remembered it this time.
Eventually, hopefully.
It'll be on there. Thank you, Toby.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.